I don't think so. We'll see how it all works.
Okay, just don't forget to record it.
Right.
All right, have a good meeting.
Great. Thank you, Erica.
Bye.
So, Roads and Right-of-Way Committee, this is the first meeting we've had since back in February. And I apologize for the clumsiness of getting started here. Lee had an emergency. Oh, hi, Leslie. Welcome.
Hi there.
Hi, Leslie.
I
Let's
made
see,
it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a quorum. Good. So Lee had an emergency off island at the last minute, so he had to go off island this morning, and left in my hands the joy of running this Zoom meeting. So here we are. I declare we have a quorum present for Roads and Right-of-Way, our meeting of this June 16th. And I see no public comment. So we'll go to the agenda, approval of minutes from Tuesday, February 12th. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We got a roll call, I believe.
Oh,
Roll call.
roll call. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, that's fine. So Nat,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Leslie,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
and Chairman Allen votes.
Now, Alan, I noticed that Ken Bogran's on as well right now.
Oh, hi, Ken. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Ken is here by invitation, right, Ken?
Yes,
Discuss one of the items on the agenda. Thank you for.
Am I looking at the right agenda, Mr. Chairman? The one from the one that you sent?
Yeah, the one should say Tuesday, June 16th at the top. It is.
Yes. Okay.
It is similar to the agenda that I put out back when
In April. Right.
Yeah, in April. There are some
Yeah.
changes on it, but
Okay.
basically that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, the purpose of getting together today is, first of all, to see if we can do this. All right, the first item on our agenda is the island-wide Greenway Trail Map and Railroad Trail Update. I put that on there because we've been talking about this for a while. It is getting closer and closer to being a reality. The Land Bank has taken on the task, I guess it is, of pulling this together. We have worked with the Conservation Foundation, with Mass Audubon, with Linda Loring, and the idea is we're going to publish a map of the entire island with all the existing trail systems on this map, so that people will be able to find their way around. I've had a lot of comments over the last couple of months as I've been out walking the trails myself, and people have said, it would be really handy to have an island-wide map. So the Land Bank has taken that on. We're working, as I say, with the other conservation groups, and that map is underway. When we will finally get it published, of course, is anyone's guess at this point, depending on circumstances. But it is being worked on. We have the detail of trails on all the conservation property and the town properties as well. And so that is something that is, as I say, I just wanted to update you on that particular item. Any questions on that? Yes, Leslie?
Alan, will the various trails be identified by its owners, Conservation Foundation, Land Bank, Mattocket Land Trust, whatever?
Yes. Yes, they'll be identified by the landowner. And the whole idea was to show where the trails connect with each other. As you go from foundation to land bank property, many of those trails connect. And those, yes, so yeah. Also, the trails will be named as well. The land bank has been working on this for the last, for a while. What I did is I went through all of the land bank trails, took a look, gave each one a name. Now the foundation, we've already done this. We have names for all the foundation trails. And so you'll have not only the property owner, whether it's land bank, foundation, Maria Mitchell, whoever, and you will also have the trail names. So yes. Yes, Leslie?
And the foundation has a wonderful app called Act Trails.
Yes.
Will there be a link to that on that map, or at least mention
Well,
of it?
there is already a link on the foundation's website.
Correct.
And we've been advertising that and
Correct.
so on. There will, in terms of the map itself, will there be, sign up for Act Trails? Yes. Now, remember, this would be a physical paper map, and it will either be a fold-out paper map or it will be a trail guide, which will be, we'll have different pages with the trails and the maps and so on them.
So there won't be a live link, but ostensibly they could at least have the address.
Yeah, right. They would,
know
exactly.
that it exists.
They would know that it exists. Yes, indeed.
Okay, I'm done.
Any other questions on that item? The updated official list of public and private ways. This is again an item that we've discussed at length. The last conversation that I had with Rob McNeil, who is very much interested in this because it is the DPW that, of course, maintains those roads that have been taken that are public ways. So there's been no progress. Let me just check my notes here. There's been no progress in terms of determining that. So it goes back to where we started. How are we going to determine that? And according to Rob, what needs to happen is that any of the ways that are questionable, and Nathan Porter has a list of those, of the roadways on Nantucket that are questionable. And so according to Rob, the next step is to go to the registry and to do some footwork. I've been talking to some people who do that sort of thing to get an idea about the time and how easy that is to do. It sounds like something that's really beyond the committees going in there. I mean, we did the sidewalk survey, that was one thing, but going into the registry to find, this. So anyway, that's a work in progress. As I say, there are several people who are quite familiar with that process. Bill Brown, for example, and there are a couple of others.
Alan?
Yes, Rick?
Yeah, just a quick question. Is that list available? Is it just like an Excel spreadsheet we could all see of the ways that are questionable? Sort of helps us know what we're up to.
All right, good question. I don't believe that it is. Every time I've talked with Nathan, he's, the answer is I don't know. But it's a good question. So let me just write that down. Spreadsheet of the questionable roads.
Alan, can you hear me?
Yes, oh, hi, Rob.
Hey, how are
Welcome.
you?
Yes,
So this has been an ongoing scenario for years now.
yes.
There was an effort done by an engineering firm some years ago. There's a spreadsheet, or I would say a master list that was developed. I want to say it was sometime in the 90s. And that is something that DPW has here. And we regularly run this through Andrew Vorse when it comes into questions of mostly the modern takings, anything that's transacted. We run it through him and get some kind of a determination about what we have on file or not.
Mhm.
And very often he will confirm with a meeting date or a book and page or plan reference. And so we'll update our list to confirm public or private. But we go through this quite a bit. And because we have, and we get multiple requests over the years from various residents, so we're able to say, okay, that's public or it's private.
Mhm.
It's an ongoing effort. It's not a comprehensive total list or a comprehensive effort that's ongoing. So I've always been supportive of, but it has never been made a priority. Obviously, it's a big effort for a committee to just take on and continue to research themselves. And the players that normally are doing the individual research, whether it's myself or in most cases, Andrew Vorse, I mean, there's just not enough time in the day. And frankly, it's really not good use of our time as a resource person. So I would be very supportive of doing some level of contracting for this. I will say in the past, we've had little or no interest from outside parties that do this because they're so busy.
I've got a
Yes, Ed?
May I suggest, obviously, right now, it's difficult to do this in the times we're operating under, but back when Bill Klein was the planning director and before we had our first the Land Bank Act came up,
Mhm.
there was a girlfriend of mine who was a student at BC that worked as an intern at the planning department and researched parcels of land. So it's a very similar exercise. Maybe it's something that we need to reach out at some point to interns. I don't know what the town's policy is these days on taking on interns, but it was a good resume item for her. And I think it was very successful for Bill Klein's effort for the land bank. So.
This started, or came before our committee as we were looking to identify public ways that we could mark with our granite posts. So that was sort of the initial inspiration for locating which roads are public and private and so on. The main advantage, of course, is to, DPW, because the DPW has to maintain the public ways. So it sounds as though, Rob, you're sort of on top of this, I guess is the best way to put it. Would you agree?
I would say on an individual basis we are, but not on a comprehensive one.
Right. So I guess it really depends on how important these are. Nathan does have a list of the the ways that he has a question about that he shows on the GIS maps that he does. And that's the list. You remember I passed out some of the West End, those roads that I must have been at our February meeting. All right, so to follow up on that then, I'll see if I can get a hold of Nathan and see if there is a list of roads that he has. And perhaps we can use that as a start. Again, our committee's main interest is, of course, trying to locate public ways that we want to mark. We do have monuments. We have additional public footpath and public way monuments, both the upright and the flush ones, behind two fairgrounds. So anyway, that's the thrust of where we're coming from as far as this particular project. All right, so I'll follow up with Nathan Porter, see what he's got. And Rob, if you have any, if you come across any ways that are, show up as public ways that might need marking or something, of course, you'll let us know.
We will.
Great, good.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on that item? Takings. I'm sorry.
Maybe off topic, but Stone Alley, what's the progress on our Stone Alley work? Would that go-
Hello? Oh, Andrew. Andrew?
Yes.
Did you want to address that? The status?
I can. Yes. Bracken Engineering has been contracted to create a plan of that area, and I spoke to him late last week, and he is finalizing that plan. It should be ready in the next couple weeks.
Perfect, Andrew.
Great. And then the next step is a vote by the select board?
Yes, it's pretty clear that that's a private way. So if that is to become a public way, there will have to be a vote to lay it out.
Right.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
There are lots of issues with respect to that, Alan, because I've started
Yeah.
to take a look at it. And the reason we have the surveys, because I've been working with Rob and with Andrew to try and exactly determine what is Stone Alley and what may be involved. So it's not a slam dunk that becomes or that we're interested in that becoming a public way.
Exactly. Good. Okay. Well, it sounds like that particular one is underway. In terms of, I'm just trying to think if there are any other ones. I don't see in my notes here any other active ones that we're pursuing at this point. And again, perhaps as we go through the list of public and private ways, that will reveal other potential takings or and so on. I've got to say, Andrew Vorse has been excellent as far as identifying them in terms of one example locally here in Surfside is Woodbine. Woodbine was a path that went down. The town sold some lots there. They did retain made it a public footpath that goes all the way out to the beach at Surfside. And I know a lot of residents here in the Surfside area use that path. There are other ones too. I've forgotten the names of them, but there are other ones in the Surfside area and around. So again, Andrew has been very helpful as far as getting those before us so we can put the posts in. We do have a few.
Alan, excuse me. What about Franklin Street that came up? Franklin, off of Liberty Street.
Yeah, Ken, do you want to talk about Franklin Street?
I don't have an answer to that.
Well, what's that one that we were considering maybe taking or trying to take?
Yeah,
I'd asked Vicky to look at that, and she hasn't been able to get to the issue of exactly its status right now.
Who's Vicky?
Vicky March, Town Council.
Town
Oh,
Council.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that of, Franklin Street is an interesting situation because we thought it was a public way. And in fact, I called the police last year because there were cars that had been parked there for weeks. And the police came, they told the people to get the cars out of there. And we found it was a private way. And so anyway, the concern there are only 3 spaces up on the cemetery end.
On the New Street end.
On the New Street end, thank you. Well, maybe 4 spaces up there. And again, same things happened again. The neighbors are parking their cars there. So one of the cars has been there all winter, that sort of thing. So the idea is that the only access to both Old and New North cemeteries is the only parking access, because we discourage people driving into the cemetery. Not a good idea. So the only real access is on those 3 or 4 spaces on Franklin Street. And that was the motivation for advancing that to the takings list, the vote that we did, and turning it over to Ken to sort that out. Apparently, there's a bit of a sticky wicket on the other end of that as well. So town council is involved in looking at that. So. Okay, anything else with regard to the takings list? Great. Encroachment policy.
Before we go on to the next thing, there's somebody on my computer called Peter. Who's Peter?
Oh, I don't have a Peter on mine.
Yeah, I do.
I'm Peter. I don't know if you can hear that.
Oh, hi, Peter.
Peter
Welcome.
Halley, and live up on Pilgrim Road. And so I was interested in what the committee does, and we're trying to figure out what the status of that road is. And this is part of my due diligence, and I'm learning a little bit, but not enough.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you don't show up on my computer here. So, so Peter, what road are you concerned with?
Pilgrim Road?
Oh, Pilgrim Road, yes.
Yeah.
And what's your last name?
Halley, Hallele.
Thank you.
Yep. So I'm just trying to inform myself about things.
That's good.
Right, yeah, it's
I know
amazing.
who's in on the meetings.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
I was guessing who it was, but I was wrong.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So Pilgrim Road is kind of an interesting situation there. And there has been some controversy as that area has been developed over particularly the last couple of years. I'm just trying to think. Andrew, do you have any
Yes.
sense of what's going on there?
Yes, so Pilgrim Road remains a private way. There was historically a vote to lay it out as a public way, but like many of those votes, it was not properly finalized and placed on the deeds and on the various certificates of title, so it failed. And so it remains a private road to this day.
Is there any interest in, from the town side in making it a public road? With all the development, and the road is, I estimate maybe 90% built out at this point. But because it was developed helter-skelter at all times, we don't have the proper sort of structure to easily maintain that road without a lot of craziness. And so that our interest is to try to figure out what we need to do next to keep the road in, the condition it ought to be in, which we've been doing over the years, but in a fairly disorganized manner.
Nat, do you have anything to contribute?
I used to go up to the Congdons and play in their backyard back in the day. And Pete Guile used to live up there, didn't he, Alan? So I remember.
Somewhere in
Pretty
that
sure he
area.
lived up
That
there.
makes sense, yeah.
That road is one of those, it's sort of like Millbrook with R1 zoning. Isn't that R1, Andrew?
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
but
sorry,
he's
I
from
just,
the-
we're one way, one side of the road, depending where you are. We're I think R20
On the other
west
side.
side for a
Right,
while, and then it's
Yeah.
R1 on the other side.
that's what I thought, because we did that one for Arcus Barrel, and I remember the
Yeah, the
R1, I was shocked.
The R1 zoning is what's caused all the development on that side.
Right, yeah. Here's the thing, Alan, is, as you know, for the town to take a road and spend the money to actually build it, that road has no drainage. Does that have sewer in it, Andrew?
It does.
has-
Or Rob knows. It's gotta have sewer.
It was included in the sewer district a few town meetings back, and actually has sewer only down from the Cliff Road area, as I recall, right?
There has been work because there are, I think, 2 more houses that went in this past year near Pilgrim Place, I think it's called, on the Westchester end of the street. And
Yeah.
there was just work there. Maybe it was only water lines, but obviously,
That has to have sewer.
there has to be sewer there because the properties, many of them are not large enough to have a septic field.
That does have sewer there, up to where you're talking about 9 or 9B or A or something in there. There's sewer in there.
There has to be town water all the way through, because they wouldn't be able to build and have enough separation.
Yeah.
So,
There's some sewer on the other side, perhaps, coming down from the cliff just slightly, but I don't know how far it goes down the road.
right.
So Peter, what's your sense of the neighbors as
Yeah.
far as whether it should be public or private?
Yeah, well, I've polled them maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and not on that particular issue, but what we should do for the road and what sort of road it ought to be. And I think the sense of the neighbors are that a significant minority would like the thing paved, which would, be a public road kind of a situation, I think. But a more significant majority don't want it to become a raceway between Cliff and Westchester. And we have the added little issue of we also are the only access for Priscilla, which is
Right.
another little roadway, which actually has a
Yeah.
right of way.
Yeah.
I think almost to Westchester, but it's never been constructed. And so that's an additional burden on the road. And I think our issue is just that there's so many houses that the effort and difficulty of organizing proper maintenance for that road seems to be more of a public issue than it should be a private issue with that number of houses and that kind of burden on the road.
Right. Rob, do you want to weigh in on that?
Maybe.
No, I do not.
I don't blame you.
I know. It is, if you haven't been on that road for a while, it is pretty tough going, particularly in the spring when it's wet and, that sort of thing. Interesting. There has been, of course, significant development along that with the Egan estate that was sold and that little subdivision there, Pilgrim Way or whatever it's called.
Westmore Lane, you mean, yeah.
Are
You mean
you-
the other side, yeah.
Leslie?
Perhaps we could give Peter the list of criteria that we as the Roads and Rights of Way Committee use to recommend a taking or not. There are several categories that need to be met.
Right.
And that'd be informative, I think, to Peter.
I thought
Yeah,
I had to
once
put a
again-
face with
Oh,
myself
There he
here.
is. There's a video.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Was
Oh.
watching it on a big screen and I had my computer closed.
Oh, oh, great.
Right.
So we do have a what do we call a matrix? We do have a matrix of the conditions that we look for when we're evaluating whether a road should be public or private. And it has some basic things like it connects to public ways, and there is I believe there are 7 criteria in that matrix. I'll make a point, Peter, if you can get me an email, I
Sure.
can email you
Yeah.
that the matrix that we use.
Good. Is it on the site? Because I can just pick it off the site if it
Oh,
is.
I don't think it is.
I think it might be. Yeah, it's been. I have to confess, I haven't.
Well, I'll look on the site. If I can't find it, your email, I think contact information is on the site.
Yes.
And then I'll ask you politely for it.
Okay. Great.
Great.
It
Yeah,
is a
it's a-
lengthy process to get a road taken.
It is. Yeah. And of course, it means extra expense for the town and, this sort of thing. Sometimes there are betterments that go along with it and, that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
all right. Well, anyway, we'll take
Thank
a look.
you.
We'll start with the matrix and see how it totals up.
Yeah, one of the things that I also am having difficulty determining, which sort of I think goes to the list or the absence of a list of what roads are public and what roads are
Mhm.
private. And I'm a novice at this, but as I understand, for private roads, there are private roads that are public ways and private roads that aren't public ways. And that is another question that I've been asking and been asked, because I heard about this Franklin. I was surprised to see all those signs on Franklin Street this year. And so obviously my neighbors want to know what kind of signs they can put up
Yeah,
on,
right.
on Pilgrim. So it's all in a kind of a Gordian knot that I'd like to start slicing through.
Good. Yeah, this is something our committee has spent a lot of time on as far as public and private and so on. Basically, with a public road, the town owns the roadway, not just the width of the road, but the roadway. And those roadways can be anywhere from 16 to 50 feet or 80 feet actually in some cases. One of the issues if it's a public way, you cannot block a public way. Of course, you cannot block a private way either, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But people putting rocks, for example, this is one of the issues that's come before our committee. People will place rocks in the roadway, which is actually town property, because they don't want people parking in front of their house or whatever. And the issue there is a liability issue. If there's an accident, if somebody had an emergency, swerved to miss a deer and hit the rock, the property owner would be liable. That's true on a private way as well. Sometimes private way owners think they own to the center line, and that's not quite true. You control to the center line.
Right.
And if you have neighbors on both sides who are agreeable and meet certain other conditions,
That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And when they argue.
That's a whole other can of worms,
Yeah.
to put it directly. So if, as a private way, you cannot block a private way. You have to allow passage because there are people that live on there. They have people that visit. You have the fire, you have the police, you have ambulances, and so on. So you cannot block a private way. Sometimes people say, well, it's a private way. Let's put a gate up. and we'll have, we'll keep people out. You can't do that. You can't do that. We have no gated communities on Nantucket.
Yeah. I've told them that that is not possible.
Yeah.
And so the question is that, for example, thinking of the sign on Franklin,
Mhm,
which says something like a butter's way, no parking,
mhm.
or private road, private abutters road, no parking, something of that nature. One person said, well, can you put down private road, no thoroughfare, or something like that? I said I didn't think that was an appropriate thing to do. You might be able to put down private road, no parking without owner's permission or something like that.
Right, and that's where the control part comes in. As I say, on a private road, you control to the center line. And so if you are on a private road and you didn't want people parking, as long as you're not blocking, you can't block the road, but you can't, but you can discourage parking by putting up a no parking sign or going out and tapping on the window or putting a note on the window or something.
Alan,
Yes.
they could put a sign, I believe, saying private road, period, with nothing else afterwards, because it's just identifying as a private road, kind of like Friendship Lane did at one time,
Mhm.
and let the public guess what that means. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I've basically said. I don't know that that's in tune with Nantucket, but that maybe you could do that.
Is it-
And let people draw their own conclusions, right or
Right.
wrong.
Would not say anything further.
Is there a parking issue?
Yeah, I was supposed to ask the same question.
It's basically because we've had so much traffic due to the construction, and that's, traffic that's going to happen until the construction ends.
Mhm.
The people are just up in arms about doing anything that makes the road more passable because they're afraid there's going to be traffic. It's like, improve the road and people will come. And so we're looking for ways to sort of soothe people by thinking that if we improve the road, that's necessarily going to make it into a thoroughfare. That's the way I'd put it.
Right. And I suspect you're right that if Pilgrim Road did become a public way, that, you would have traffic, more
Yeah.
traffic than you have now. Right now, people either can't find it or they're discouraged once they take it once or twice. And so,
Though your postman would appreciate it being graded in a while, I'm sure.
Well, the
Yeah.
post office won't come down the road. That's, another issue, but the post boxes are on Cliff and on Westchester.
Yeah,
So-
Alan, Leslie has her hand up. just
I
so
do
you
have
know.
a question with Rob McNeil here. What is the requirement of a property owner who has had construction trucks going up and down a private way to put the property back into the condition it was before they started driving on it? So I'm wondering whether you have some relief from the construction that's going on. If those cement trucks and the foundation trucks have created deep ruts. I know when we built, the DPW came by to make sure that we put things back to the way they were when we were done with our construction, which we have done.
So if you're specifically talking about vehicles passing over a private road, the DPW does not have jurisdiction over those private ways.
But how about the planning department? Can neighbors, abutters ask that the person who made the road worse could have the responsibility to put it back together again?
So
It used to be that way.
So it's going to depend on the rights that exist.
I mean,
And that's not, if it's not a public way, it's not anything that DPW gets involved with. But to that
About the
point,
planning department,
uh,
when they get a building permit.
Well, what we've done in the past, I don't mean to interrupt, on one occasion, one of the most recent subdivision occasions, we did go to the, I think it's the planning board, and ask that they condition whatever they're doing. It was a subdivision and a development with, you know, we tried to get them to improve the road somewhat because of the extra traffic, but that didn't work. But to sort of grade it out. But somehow all the gradings went before all the construction was finished. And so it's a very blunt tool. It's a tool to use, but it's a difficult to use.
Alan?
Yes, Rick?
As I think Nat knows, Squam Road has what's worked
Yes.
out to be a very effective agreement amongst the property owners and the planning board. And
Yep.
there is a process addressing just these issues of what happens after construction and what kind of a payment is required by the owner of the property. And it's worked out very well. So it is possible. It takes some work and agreement with the parties that help enforce it. The planning board's been very good.
You know, Rick, I was thinking about that a minute ago. Your neighbor there, what's that guy's name that sort of instituted a little bit of that?
Our road
I'm trying to
manager.
think of, I forgot his name. You know who I'm talking
Tony
about.
Road manager.
So can I just, a couple of things into Leslie's point, I guess to everyone's point. So I try to like, when this stuff comes up, it's always an individual situation. Like Pilgrim Road has been like that since I was, 2. I mean, it's the same. It's just got more houses, but it's not any different. What Alan talked about, coming in to go to like Gardner McDonald's house, down there, Alan, by that cement house there with the blocks.
Yeah.
It's been wet in there forever. It doesn't see any sun. Then you turn the corner and it changes, and it's, there's always a gigantic puddle on Cliff Road side. It's a road that never it just sort of happened. I mean, there are roads on the island that are private that are better than the public roads. Nothing to do with Rob, nothing to do with him. I'm just saying that. Now, I thought of Washing Pond Road as a good example of something, Sir Peter.
Yeah.
Washing Pond Road is now public. The owners of the properties basically gave it to us, fixed it, built it, paid for it over the time of that whole project development. It's in Lug 2, I realize that. And they even paid for the engineering, as I recall, Alan, and Andrew might remember better than me, but I'm pretty sure they paid for all the paperwork to make that a public road. Now, I believe edge of pavement is 14 feet wide, and it basically has natural runoff and little berms, and it's been fine for years. It's never had an issue. There are roads like that in a lot of these subdivisions over the years, like Wing Spread, Medui Creek, Allen. They just sort of function as little narrow paved roads. Up there, you never have a drainage issue because it's so high. You know what I mean? That's like a mountain up there, sort of at the top. But there would have to be an arrangement with this where the butters paid for, a significant part of it. I don't see this just passing town meeting, bada bing, for, $2.5 million to build this road. It's just, you know what I'm saying? I just don't see that, Peter. I don't want to say I have a crystal ball, but I got a pretty solid, feel of how things are here. And Rob's been here for now, I think 3-4 years, and he, without question, would probably agree with that, considering what we've tried to do over the last few town meetings. So, but I think as far as the people saying things like it's going to be a cut through. Well, Westchester Street Extension is not a cut through. Okay, people drive on it, yes, more than they used to, absolutely, but it's not like a raceway to get to Crooked Lane to go where? To go on Madigan Road? I mean, it spreads the cars out.
Yeah.
I don't see Pilgrim being a cut through in my mind. It's more work to go on Pilgrim Road, paved or not, than it is to just take North Liberty Street, even though I don't like North Liberty Street either. It's certainly ridiculous to go on Pilgrim. So speed humps work, sir. Lily Street, best example on the island. If there was a design for a very narrow, enough room for 2 cars to pass and repass, I mean, that's how I see that as paved. It shouldn't be more than 14 feet wide to make everybody happy. But at the same time, that process is complicated and would have to be private, public plan, in my opinion, to do that. So, you know, you got a good engineer up there been working on those last few subdivisions, Atkins Barrow. He's pretty good with this stuff. I'm not sure if that was.
Who is that?
Atkins Barrow worked on those recent projects up there at the top that I think you're referring to with the construction.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I know the Gasparo, I think, has been.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Name.
he worked on that last, I think it was a 3-lot project,
Yeah, yeah.
pretty sure. But again, sir, how long have you lived there?
I think we've been asking ourselves that question. I think it's about 12 years now. I think we bought it in like 2006.
You just got here. You just got here.
Yeah, exactly.
You just got off the boat.
We're hardly even there.
You're welcome to Pilgrim Road. I mean, it's been like that in this, it's a unique mess, okay?
Yeah.
So it requires a unique solution. But I think that with the current town officials that we have now and the way things work, I think there could be, you know, an acceptable way to do it. But I definitely know there's going to have to be a lot of private investment.
Yeah.
for the
I think
town that takes it.
our biggest challenge is drainage.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know,
And getting it to naturally run off, and you don't want to be putting in catch basins and leach
Yeah.
fields. I mean, that's insanity. You want to make it work naturally somehow. At
Yeah.
least turning right from Primrose. I mean, not Primrose. What's the name of the one that I'm talking about, Alan? That he just brought up. Yeah, whatever. I know what road I'm talking about. The one where Gardner lives, and Alan, down there. So that's where it starts to get dry. After that, you don't have any drainage issues after you
Oh,
turn right.
Kingsway that comes in to it.
No, I'm talking about when you pull in from Westchester side.
Dairy Lane, is that what you're talking about?
No. When you get out
No,
of Pilgrim.
Priscilla. Is Priscilla?
Priscilla.
Priscilla.
There you go. Just got
Yeah, that-
mixed up.
That part is particular bad. And then there's the low point on the,
Cliff
you
side.
go around the curve there and you go down to a low point and then you start back up toward Cliff Road. And I own, you know, the little wetland on one side of that. And in an environmentally friendly way, I wouldn't mind, you know, that it's a natural drainage point.
That's what you want. Yeah.
As are
That
others.
saves the money.
Yeah.
I think I just
Oh.
want to go back to Rick's comment about the agreement on Squam Road. That was one of the roads that was on our takings list for a couple of years. And because the residents got together and said, look, we'll take care of this, we said, fine, you know, no need to make it a public way. And the homeowners along Squam Road do maintain the road. It's probably in better shape than certainly it used to be.
Yeah.
Is there somebody I could call to get a copy of the agreement or the structure that was put together?
But just to fill in the gaps of that plan, you know, that was an anything but asphalt solution. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's and I personally, you know, went through the whole back in the day of we were called the paving board at one time as a mock. And it wasn't really justified, but that was what we were called. And I personally think that Millbrook Road and Squam are kind of identical, and neither one of them need to be paved, but they need to be maintained. And that was where that came from. There was a big project out there, Riverlight, that drove that agreement to happen, okay? Rick remembers that like yesterday. It's unbelievable. And there was a lot of dump trucks of dirt being hauled back and forth and this and that. So in the issue too, sir, Peter, is the fire department, sometimes they don't like, they like roads to be bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, wherever you went. Oh, there you are. And turnouts is now something that that has become sort of a normal term, which is a good thing, where people can pull over and let someone by on an area of the road. And Squam is a perfect example of that. It has a whole bunch of places that have a spot where you can pull over. So when you have a well-maintained dirt road that has these things and everybody's happy, then you're not going to ever have a problem again. But as far as a road like Pilgrim, I mean, you have to make that decision as a neighborhood. Do you want it never to be paved? If that's the case, then, you know, you gotta get somebody to take care of it for you, which is complicated. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Squam Road is, how many miles is Squam Road, Rick?
It's about.
It's gotta be 3, 4, pretty long.
It's really 2 miles from end to end.
Is it? Okay, I figured it
Yeah,
might be a
from
little bit more than
Winter
that.
to Wall Winter. Yep.
Right. So Rick, that the agreement that you struck as far as the road, that should be posted with the town or somewhere.
I'm not sure we want to advertise.
Definitely in agreement.
But
No, there's a written agreement for that road.
Oh,
No
interesting.
question about it.
And is that between the town and the owners, or just between the owners?
Howard Blitman, wasn't it, Rick?
Well, Howard was a little involved. Peterson was involved, and our current guy is Tony Cahill.
Tony, right. Yeah.
Is
Okay.
the current manager of the road, and we're really lucky to have Tony there. So I think sort of between the group of people who have a history there, we all understand the deal. And as I said, there's been no problem. There may be a written document someplace deep in the vaults.
Did you say Howard Blitman is one of the,
I thought he was, yeah.
because I know Howard, so I can,
Yeah, Howard's there. He's not as active as he used to be, you know. And I think you're probably best if you want to reach out. I'd be happy to set you up to meet or call Tony Cahill.
Tony Cahill?
Yep. He's at 44 Squam. He's my neighbor.
Well, I think I'm on a committee with Howard, and I think I got his contact information. And
Sounds like non-voting taxpayers to me.
it is, yeah. It
Yeah.
is.
Great. Okay.
Okay. Well, I apologize for taking up so much of your time, but I very
Oh.
much appreciate the help, the information.
Good. Well, we
We
enjoy,
appreciate you.
yeah,
thank you.
we enjoy talking about this sort of thing as well. So
It's
Good.
it's easier to talk about than do.
exactly.
That's a good point.
Okay. So where did we, the encroachment policy update. Basically, DPW has an encroachment letter that they send out and so on. And so I'm just trying to think of where.
Rob's going to start.
Yeah, Rob has that. And
He's going to start. Let him explain.
Hmm?
Let Rob explain where we are.
Oh, okay. Rob?
Sure. Thanks, Alan. Thanks, Ken. So the way the process works currently is DPW receives service requests or inquiries about particular suspect encroachment that exist out there. And we essentially follow up through Ken as the real estate specialist for for all the locations. And Ken will do some research into the property, and we will combine the research showing the property lines with what we can field determine. In some cases, if we can field determine that there is in fact an encroachment because of the presence of property markers, then we simply photo document. Ken will put together the package, and ultimately that gets sent out through the town manager's office as a notice to remove the encroachment with the applicable bylaws noted. And they typically are given a period of time to address the encroachment. Oftentimes they'll contact the department and they'll start to inquire, what they can do or what they need to do specifically, and we'll coordinate back and forth until it gets completed. If they ignore the request, I should say, if they ignore the order from the town manager's office, essentially the town uses one of our landscape vendors. Typically, in some cases, Public Works gets involved specifically, but in most cases, the landscape vendor will go out and take care of the encroachment depending on the situation. Oftentimes, we're talking about vegetative encroachment. And so we've had a multi-pronged approach, and we've fine-tuned the process between the town manager's office with Ken present and myself, and Stephen Arsenault with the DPW deputy director. So it's worked out quite well, I think, and to the point now that people understand that it's working and it's actually happening. So we're getting, like any good successful project or program, now we're getting the word's out, and now we're getting inundated with requests from all over the island.
Yeah.
So as Ken and I like to tell everybody, we have other things going on as well. But in and amongst all of that, we meet weekly now to go through the ongoing encroachment list, and we're moving those down the road as quickly as we can get to them.
Rick?
Yeah, Alan, we, as a committee, developed our own places where encroachments were of high importance. So we have a list ourselves, as I recall, and I assume we've shared that with Rob, and he might want to share his back with us if we both have common interests and can see how that develops.
Right, yeah. That was just before we, I think at our last meeting, where we had begun collecting. I had asked members of the committee to go out and, if you saw an egregious encroachment, to make a note of it so we could develop a list of that. My recollection in checking through my minutes in preparation for the meeting today is that we don't have a list. We had some people other than the ones that were mentioned in the minutes and so on. So we don't have that formal list yet, but yeah, so that would be, I think the whole purpose of that would be to get it to Rob, so, to be sort of the eyes and ears. And again, we were looking for the priority was the ones, the encroachments that had an impact on safety, traffic safety, pedestrian safety, and so on. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to corroborate that. Essentially, the focus has been safety. And when we look to prioritize, it's generally safety around high volume roads down to low volume roads, and generally in that approach.
Good. So it sounds like, you're on top of that in terms of the, that. And any suggestions once we get back rolling again, any suggestions that people have for them, we'll certainly share them with you, and you can take a look at them and see what you think. So.
Alan, it was my recollection that Snooki submitted just about the whole village of Sconset.
Well, yes. Yeah, there were quite a few there, so.
Ken is trying to speak and he's muted.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ken, are you there?
Top right, Ken, press the
You're
button.
muted. You're muted.
Okay.
There.
There you go.
All right. Basically, what Steve Arsenault and I have worked out with Rob is that we're developing a database, and the database will have the record with respect to each of the complaints. It will have, we're creating in that database, we're going to create plot plans and all of the historical legal data that we need, and have a record of the resolution so that it's going to be accessible on the T drive for anybody that wants to take a look at it. And so there's a process that we're going through in terms of how it comes in, what happens to it, who follows up, and how it then gets resolved, so that if it comes up a year or two down the road, we see what happened before and how it's been dealt with. What we're finding is that we're working together. It's not as easy a process as you might think, but when we're getting in touch with people, the first thing that I try to do is to talk to them to see whether or not we can get it resolved without having to go to the formal letters and not much other than that. And so far, in most of them, that has happened to be able to work out that way. So we're at the start of this process. As Rob said, there is a lot of stuff out there, but we're trying to attack the most egregious ones first, and then move on to the ones. But as Rob said, it's really safety is the most critical thing.
Exactly. Leslie?
Along that line, Ken, I wonder if some sort of an advertising campaign, either announcing it in the newspaper or on Daybreak or something like that, just, do you know where your property lines are? Because I find that sometimes people think they own right to the pavement, and they're surprised when they do not. So I don't know whether you found that in your discussions with people, that they're like, well, I didn't know that was a problem. And I wonder if something as simple as a series of ads, or Brian Glowacki or somebody like that, calling people's attention to the fact that the public ways are wider than the asphalt.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we found out on Washington Avenue at Madigan. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people really thought that their property went to the edge of the pavement, as opposed to that a good portion of their property was on town property. So
Right. 50.
And
That's got a great.
That's why we had to have the survey done to be able to clearly show what the town owned and what needs to be addressed.
But I'm wondering if you can do just sort of a public service announcement without even doing surveys and whatever, just alerting people that town property, I don't know how to word it, to tell you the truth, but the town property takes more of roadways than you think. And so you should be very careful where you put your hedges and where you put your rocks and where you put your green poles, because you may be using town property and incurring potential liability.
Okay.
That's, that doesn't take any survey work. It's the money of an advertising or of a Brian Glowacki or whatever. Brian could do it in a very funny way.
Leslie, just a quick point on that. I would say in a lot of cases, the landscape vendor that we use is reaching out to a lot of landscapers that are working on the properties that we're contacting. So in a lot of cases, the landscaper for the homeowner ends up taking care of it on their behalf, instead of having our vendor do it and then bill them. So they're incurring a cost, and particularly when they have installed thousands, or in some cases tens of thousands of dollars of landscaping improvements or some other improvements on public property, they are not going to do it more than once.
Yeah, right.
And typically the neighbors are paying attention to that as well. So it's one of those things that sort of helps reestablish a visual line that's appropriate and within the town's right of way. And it also sends a message locally. My only concern about doing something of a public service type of thing
Yeah, people.
is that it's going to result in a list of encroachments that we couldn't possibly
Yeah.
get to.
Yeah.
So I think if I could characterize it this way, the process continues to improve.
Mhm.
It's making real measurable results, and we're still getting updates and new requests for analysis and the follow-up. And Ken, I mean, you could speak to that as well, but to me, I feel like the program is successful and we don't have, full-time people working on it. We have full-time staff that are involved in the process, but we're not focusing on encroachments full-time.
Okay. Alan, can I just follow up a little bit with what Rob is talking about? Rob,
Okay, well, I think Rob made it pretty clear. I
Yeah.
mean, in my mind, it sounds like it's under control between Rob.
it is, it is, and he's doing a great job. I'm just bringing up something, when this all started back in the day, when we had that policy and Joe rewrote it and all that, that was more about downtown. This whole thing with the rocks is sort of new since really Rob's been here. I mean, there's enough rocks to protect the Baxter Road forever, all over the place. I had to throw that in, Rick. But it's this Appleton Road thing, Rob, for example. It's funny what happens is these roads that were built when no one was really thinking about on-street parking or density or existing zoning, and all of a sudden people just park, and the property owners think that they can stop it. And so each one of these has to be looked at, and I commend you for even tackling this. It's not an easy thing to do, but the public safety aspect is the biggest issue. Beyond, if somebody's bush is 1 foot in the road layout, that doesn't really mean anything if it's not an obstruction. But when you have things hanging in the street, I mean, I take care of my whole side of my road, myself, because it's the right thing to do. But we need to get, like you talked about, their own landscapers. I think that is a great positive thing, because people got to take care of the front of their houses. That's what needs to happen.
I think
So-
getting landscapers involved is key, because there's an awful lot of irrigation heads that are being protected.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one last thing on that, Nat. Sometimes what happens with these encroachments is as we investigate them, they do sort of snowball into a neighborhood or a multiple frontage
Yes.
issue that, prior to that, we just didn't have knowledge of. So it's been very helpful, again, and Ken has been really instrumental in doing the research into these. So it's a combination of the field work along with the property research. And then we do supplement occasionally having to spend money on survey. So that's another thing. And I think it was Leslie who at a previous meeting, we were talking about this. And so there is this real expense to the town. And in the end, we try to minimize those costs, but to be accurate, we make sure that the research is done to a level that we can confidently and accurately interact
Property owners.
with the homeowner to say, this is your issue that you need to take care of. And so that's where we're at today.
Good. Okay. I think that
Yep.
really clarifies the whole where we are in terms of the encroachment issue. Okay, we're getting on in time. I have two quick requests. Erica is scheduling the Zoom meetings for us, and she has 5 meetings on Tuesday at 4, and so she is looking for volunteers among those 5 committees to pick a different day to meet, and I told her I would put it out there to see what the feeling was. She recommended either a Wednesday or a Friday. And so again, this is not something that we're being
Permanent.
elected for, but you know.
Yeah.
So what are your feelings, Ed?
I vote for Wednesday.
Rather than keeping it on our third Tuesday?
Yes, I think Wednesday would be equally, Friday would be a very difficult day.
Yeah, Friday, I would agree with you. So Wednesday would be a possibility, Rick?
Well, just on Wednesday, the select board's meeting at 5 now,
Oh, right.
for those who want to watch or
Yeah.
whatever. So just be alert to that. I'm not sure that's a good idea, but anyway.
Yeah, okay. Well, what I pointed out is that we have been meeting on the third Tuesday of the month for the last 15 years that I've been chairman. So
Right.
you know, it's there. All right, well, I will pass that.
Work on the assumption that the others are going to move.
All right.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, they haven't been doing it for so long, so.
Otherwise,
Working on an assumption.
what would happen if you just moved
Ed?
to maybe the second Tuesday of the month or something like that?
The who?
What would happen if you just moved it to a different week, but still stayed on Tuesday at the same time? Second.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, that works. I have a conflict in that I have land bank on the second and fourth. I forget what. Yeah, second and fourth Tuesday. So I scheduled my meetings on my day off, so, or my ranger days off. So,
Stick to Ken's
all right.
agenda.
Well, I'll get back to Erica. And the other thing is, as I say, Lee had an emergency trip off island today, which is why I've had to fumble around trying to figure out how to be the host of a meeting here. So I'll keep you posted as you know, as if there's any news there. I've got to say, Lee has been fantastic as far as going through learning how to do all this Zoom stuff. He also serves as secretary of the Cemetery Commission as well. And we had a very productive meeting last Wednesday. So I just want to acknowledge Lee for the incredible work that he does, not just with the minutes and getting those out and detailed and so on, but for the work he's been doing to help us set this up. So Lee would have been here running this. Yes.
Alan, do you have good Wi-Fi out at the Rangers house?
I have no Wi-Fi. That's why I have to come back into my
Oh my
house
God.
or go to the Athenaeum, or actually there's a good Wi-Fi at two fairgrounds, but of course now that's closed down. The Athenaeum is closed, and so, and unfortunately my house isn't rented this summer, so I'll have access to Wi-Fi for most of the summer. Okay, so that brings us to old, new, other business, or any committee comments. Anyone have anything to add?
Bill Greeter.
There's someone on my screen called Guido who's raising his hand.
That's great. That's always.
Oh. Have you been with us all afternoon?
No, I was in the middle of raising a flagpole, and all I can say is that the F Street dock now has a flagpole again, but I apologize for the delay.
Okay, well, welcome. Good.
Oh, thanks.
I'll put you on the list here.
I have to call you Lee Jr.
Yeah. Okay. If there,
Alan?
yes, Ed.
I have only one small thing, and on item 8 on adjourn, you have the next meeting is April 21st. So
It's
I
just the old agenda, I think.
don't
It
think
is.
that's
You're
gonna
right. I just copied it. Yeah. In fact, let me see. July. Roads and Rotary, July 14th.
Bastille Day. Good.
Thank you. Thank you for that correction. Yeah, so our next meeting, and it will more than likely be a Zoom meeting as well, will be on April 14th. The
July 14th.
Or, God, is it, oh, that's right. I'm losing track of what day it is. July 14th at our normal time. And we'll send out a notice, of course, beforehand and with all the codes and everything else to get in. So, okay, is there any other business to come before the committee this afternoon? Seeing none, I declare we are at the end of our agenda and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for participating and bearing with me here.
Bob Allen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good meeting.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.